Hello, Cool9 here, another Topic of the Week video. This week I'll be discussing what J.K. Rowling did wrong in the Harry Potter series. This week's topic was submitted by grimaulkins, and she asks, Tumblr user grimaulkins, and she asks, where did J.K. Rowling go wrong with the Harry Potter series, especially in the later books? I think we can all pretty much agree at this point that the Harry Potter series isn't nearly as well written as a lot of people used to think it was. And I'm glad to see that the truth of this is really coming to light, especially since J.K. Rowling has gone completely off the deep end. All her double talk, trying to justify things in the book, and then try to retcon things afterwards. The whole thing of, oh, well, I didn't really think Snape was all that great, but you had Harry name his child after him. And this whole thing of trying to say, oh, Dumbledore was totally gay. He was never, ever mentioned or hinted at in the books, but that's totally what I meant. And there's the whole thing of, well, Hermione could totally have been black, despite me describing her as white in the books. The stupidity of J.K. Rowling is honestly astounding. And and especially after the Cursed Child bullcrap, I'm glad that people have finally come around to realizing, wow, maybe J.K. Rowling isn't the genius that everyone has been propping her up to be. And really, you could see this as far back as the Goblet of Fire. Personally, and I think a lot of people agree with me on this, is that the first three books, while they may have some issues, are pretty darn good. Especially The Prisoner of Azkaban. Prisoner of Azkaban remains to be my favorite of the entire Harry Potter series. I mean, we get more information on Harry's father. We get the whole concept of the Marauders. We're introduced to Lupin. Lupin, one of the best characters in the series. We're introduced to Sirius Black, and at the end of the book we realize that Sirius Black actually wasn't the evil guy that we thought he was. He was actually, he actually really cared about James and Harry, and he was totally ecstatic about being Harry's godfather, which is one of the few good things in, like, the Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix. I mean, there's so much good stuff in that book. And then, you get to the Goblet of Fire, and Goblet of Fire really is indicative of where the series went wrong. J.K. Rowling obviously didn't have any real plan. I think she didn't have anything thought out besides 7 books. I think she had this idea that they're in school for 7 years. Afterwards, they graduate. All right, okay, basic world building. But she obviously didn't have any plot ideas past that. And you can tell from the fact that it took 6 books to get any real, cohesion to the plot. And the whole concept of the Horcruxes, while a neat idea, came honestly pretty much out of left field. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've always said this. J.K. Rowling lucked out with the concepts that she had come up with in Book 2. The whole idea of the journal being a Horcrux or Tumblr's diary being a Horcrux, was a cool idea. But it's obvious that wasn't what it was planned to be. It would have been nice. It would have been nice if she had any real forethought with planning the series, because this actually could have been a really cool reveal. Now it just feels like oh yeah, hey, remember that thing from the thing before? Yeah, that was also this thing. But let me go back to Goblet of Fire. Goblet of Fire it's a bad book. It's a bad story, and it's an even worse movie. Ugh. It's not bad in and of itself with the basic idea of it, that Harry competes in this big tournament while the looming threat of Voldemort coming back. Alright, cool. The thing is that the way everything was written, the series takes a significant dark turn in the 4th Harry Potter book, which, isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'll teach me to eat right before I do a topic video. The thing with it is that it just took such a swerving turn to being dark, and it's like, oh, calm down. I mean, the book opens up with a poor old man getting murdered by Voldemort. That's how it opens up. And the whole Cedric Diggory getting killed off in it started the trend that for some reason J.K. Rowling had this idea that she had to kill someone important in each book. You don't need to kill anyone important. Cedric Diggory's death could have been a really big deal, and it could have been by itself a good thing. It really could have caused Harry development. It could have caused him. It really made him personally see this. This is why Voldemort is evil. He just killed a friend of his. He's a guy he knew. He just killed him right in front of him, and this really raises the stakes. But the whole concept of constantly killing characters really wears off when you're killing everyone's favorite characters. She killed off Sirius, which I've already talked about that in a past topic video. She killed off Dumbledore in the 6th book, and then afterwards in the 7th book she's like, hey, here are a bunch of reasons to hate Dumbledore now. Yay. And then in the 7th book she's just like, I'm going to slaughter everyone because I don't want anyone using my characters because I'm a selfish brat. The plot of the Goblet of Fire is something that could have been good, but the way it was set up makes it so completely stupid. So here's the plan. They rig the Goblet of Fire to spit out Harry's name after the 3 contestants. Despite it being a Triwizard Tournament, there's apparently a magic rule that even if there's someone for a 4th person, they're magically bound by the Goblet of Fire or whatever. First off, why would you do that? So that they can't back out? Well, what if someone gets significantly injured in a way that they can't? It'll take a while to heal. Like in the 2nd book when Harry lost it, when Gilderoy Lockhart made Harry's bones disappear, and they had to grow bones back, and it took a while. I think a couple of weeks for the bones to grow back. It's like, what if something like that happens and they're completely unable to compete? Or if they're walking around with a flabby arm? You telling me that we couldn't do a redraw for whatever prospective school that is? You're telling me that there's no way we can change up if someone is somehow disqualified? What about Harry Potter? He's underage for the rules that they set up for that Triwizard Tournament. Is he magically bound by that? It's all these rules that apparently exist strictly to force Harry into this. And this whole idea that everyone's pissed off at Harry for doing this, how dare you go into this? And Harry's just like, I don't want to be in this. Someone set me up. And after 3 books, and especially the 2nd one, with the whole thing with everyone thinking he's the heir of Slytherin and finding out that he wasn't, you think people would trust Harry at his word when he's like, hey, I don't want to do this. And even then, if he had to go and compete, why couldn't he just throw every match? Why couldn't he forfeit? He walks up, goes up to the dragon. Okay, forfeit. Well, he technically competed. I mean, is it magically stated that they have to give it their all? I mean, these rules are so stupid because they're literally built around plot contrivance. And the plan, Barty Crouch Jr. and Voldemort's plan involved making sure Harry won and touched the Goblet of Fire and was teleported to the graveyard so that Voldemort could be revived in his full power. 2 problems with this. 1, the amount of work it takes to get Harry to the Triwizard Tournament is so completely stupid and unnecessary. 2nd, they literally could have just turned a chair into a portkey and pushed him onto the chair. He could have, the idea of befriending him, of Barty Crouch befriending Harry under the guise of Mad Moody, it's a really cool idea. He comes in there, he brings him in, he becomes buddies with them, and basically pulls a whole thing of what Lupin was like, hey, I know Lupin, I get it, having all these bad teachers and, you can trust me. And then and talking and just schmoozing Harry into trusting him. And then at one point, he just goes up, he has him drink something, knocks him out, makes something a portkey, toss it on him, and then boom, he's in the graveyard, into the book. Voldemort's back. Do we have to go through the whole rigmarole? And in fact, this would actually have been a good idea to use the Triwizard Tournament as a distraction. Wouldn't that have been good? Instead of putting Harry Potter literally in the limelight of the entire thing, why don't you use this as the distraction where you send Harry to the graveyard? What? And honestly, what's really stupid is that Dumbledore literally is just throwing points at Harry. Okay, why? He doesn't want to compete. He doesn't want to win. He's just doing this because they literally said you have to, because magic. The plot of the book is so absurd. And this is really where it's so indicative of the plots to come. I mean, in Order of the Phoenix, J.K. Rowling was originally going to kill off Arthur Weasley, and she's like, but I love Arthur Weasley so much, I have to kill Sirius. And then killed Sirius. Why? Because I guess she had to kill someone? You couldn't have Harry go and rescue Sirius? Like, you couldn't have actually just had that? Why? The whole assault on the Ministry of Magic was... I enjoyed the Order of the Phoenix better than Goblet of Fire, but... we do get some cool stuff in it, but... I mean, there's so much stuff, like... I believe... Was it Goblet of Fire that they had to... Or, Order of the Phoenix that they had to disguise themselves as Harry? I don't remember which one that is, either that or the sixth one. But regardless of that, that's actually a really stupid idea. Why don't they just disguise Harry as a civilian, a regular muggle, have him transported by car instead of flying around in magic broomsticks that are easy for someone who knows magic to see? Oh my gosh, the plot of these just falls apart when you think about it. The whole plot line in the Half-Blood Prince. I mean, the whole thing of Snape being the real Half-Blood Prince. You know, I still don't know how I feel about that. Because Snape just at the end of the book, he's just like, I am the Half-Blood Prince. And then just flies off. Cool. I mean, it makes sense, really, if you think about it, because he's the potions master, and the book was basically a cheat sheet for potions, so makes sense that would... Then, you know, you kind of have this idea that maybe this is like Voldemort or something, which Voldemort is half-blood. But, I mean, the books just honestly kind of get really uninspiring. The sixth book just got dark. And this really pisses me off because tonal consistency seems to be something a lot of writers are incapable of comprehending. It's okay to have some darker moments or lighter moments, but it is very much best to keep a consistent tone throughout the entirety of a series. Sure, sometimes the stakes get raised a little, but don't need to change the tone. I mean, Avatar: The Last Airbender never changes its tone. Really, in fact, even up until Ember Island Players happens right before the finale. And Ember Island Players is one of the most completely comic relief things in the entire series. So, yeah, this whole idea of basically cranking out any happiness and just shoving it out of the way to be dark is just so exhausting. And that's what J.K. Rowling ended up doing, especially by the time she got to the Deathly Hallows. The movies, it's almost like they were just exhausted with the movies. The movies are just so bleak. Well, the books were bleak too. I mean, especially killing Dobby, killing Remus, killing Tonks, killing Hedwig. Killed Hedwig in the beginning of the book. I mean, it's so exhausting to see just all this bitterness and like darkness. It's like a lot of people think that makes something more mature. That really makes it more immature if you just make it super dark and gruesome. And that's where J.K. Rowling really went wrong. J.K. Rowling is not a good writer. She flubbed through the first 3 books and got lucky. In all honesty, probably after that, fame got to her head and she's just like, I'm the greatest writer ever. Because she definitely has that egotism upon her. And I've discussed that in previous... I've discussed, J.K. Rowling's issue with her perceptions and stuff in previous videos. Specifically the one about Draco and Slytherin. But it's the thing with her... It's the thing with her is that, goodness gracious, it's like she's totally tone deaf. I mean, this idea of just killing off big characters, especially killing off Sirius, it's like you can tell she's trying to force, I talked about this before, she's trying to force a certain outcome. And when you're writing a story, you never force something. Even if it may have been part of your original plan, things change. I think the How I Met Your Mother finale, I think, was a big issue with this. They talked about how this had been a plan for years, but you could tell that the way they had written the characters for the last several years had moved away from that original vision. But they still went with the original vision despite the fact that it would make everyone massively out of character. Well, that's kind of what J.K. Rowling probably did. You have this idea in your head, especially this idea of Harry being a Weasley. Oh no, he needs to marry Ginny. That was a big issue too. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. This idea of him being a Weasley, okay. You don't use Ginny at all for most of the series. Have Harry's main, love interest be Cho. And I didn't even realize that she was introduced in The Prisoner of Azkaban. And then she came back in the 4th book, and then in the 5th book she and Harry started having a thing, so there was this sort of gradual evolution. And then you had the whole issue with her friend, betraying them and her leaving, only to never come back, despite the fact she still had another year of school. She was just a year older than Harry. And she disappears, and all of a sudden, Harry's jumping Ginny, and I'm like, what? It's like, honestly, I'm sure she may have had an idea of this years ago, of Harry getting with Ginny. It's not really an issue. It would be less of an issue if she actually wrote this out. You don't set up a romance and then at the end toss it all away. This is the same issue with Legend of Korra. You have Mako and Asami in their relationship, and then Bolin and Korra in their relationship, and you have them developing, and all of a sudden you just toss it all in the trash and go, Makora! When you're writing something, and this is something J.K. Rowling, a lot of writers, especially like Brick, need to understand. When you're writing something and you have a vision, you either write that vision or you understand what you're writing. To understand where your story is going. If I wrote 2 characters being friends and I wanted one of them to end up betraying the other, but as I was writing the series, I never had any kind of hint that they were betraying because I'd forgotten to actually put in hints that he was going to betray them. Okay, so what do I do? Well, to have him betray him when that would contradict everything that I've already written, despite the fact that that was my original plan, would be bad writing. Yes, it is good to have good plans. It's good to plan out your story. But if you're not following that plan, you don't continue going with that plan. I'd have to change the story. It might not have been as good as what I had originally planned, but when you've already done the work, you can't just go back and change everything. You can't just have a story derailed just to go with some idea you used to have. And now time to talk about Cho. Cho and Harry's relation. Not everyone ships them. I did when I was a kid, and really shipped him when I was a kid. But you can't deny that there was a development of their relationship. Him meeting Cho and I think it was like on a Quidditch match in The Prisoner of Azkaban, and then him having an actual crush on her in the 4th book and trying to ask her to the Yule Ball. And then in the 5th book they kind of started hooking up, only for that to be derailed. This is what I'm talking about. You have this story, and I don't even know if she meant for this to be endgame or not, but regardless, the way she handled it was as bad as you possibly could. Cho goes out of nowhere, just like completely hates Harry because of what Hermione did that Harry didn't know about. And Cho's supposed to be a Ravenclaw. They're supposed to be the smart ones, and she acts so completely irrational. And no, she deserves to be mad at Hermione for what she did to her friend. She also should be mad at her friend for betraying everyone, including her. And this is the problem. J.K. Rowling obviously was like, I need to force Cho out of this. And it's like, I cannot remember her ever being mentioned again, outside of maybe someone mentioned, oh yeah, Harry, didn't you make out with Cho one time, or something vague like that. But then he's all of a sudden just starts getting with Ginny. She had a crush on him once, back in book 2, when she was 11 years old. And it was a celebrity crush. It was more of a, oh my gosh, it's Harry Potter kind of a thing. And she was just 11. You're telling me when she was 15, and she still has this crush, which had never been mentioned. Honestly, I don't even remember Ginny being mentioned. And Ginny overall ended up being really bland after the 2nd book, so remembering her is really hard anyway, even in the 6th book. But I mean, you're telling me that this is supposed to be the love of Harry's life, that this bland person. I mean, Cho was so great for Harry. I mean, they both understood what was going on. They both bonded over the loss of Cedric. They're both Quidditch players. I mean, there's so much you can do with that relationship, and it was developed. It would have been so easy to have them be a couple. That was the way the story was progressing, and then she's like, nope, can't do that. J.K. Rowling is incapable of plotting stuff out. Personally, when I write, I always like to have an idea of what I'm writing. I always like to at least know where I'm going to start and how I'm going to end it. And then stuff I want to do in the middle. I kind of wing it a lot of times when I'm writing, but like I have this fic idea, this fic I'm writing. I really need to get back to writing that. But I have every single chapter laid out. What is going to happen in each chapter? What's the plot point? What's going on here? What's going to be explained? What's the dramatic thing that's going to happen? What characters are going to be talking to each other? Not all the details, but I know the events that are going to happen up to leading to the finale at the end. A lot of writers understand that you really need to do this. And this is a problem that a lot of writers have, especially for like TV shows or manga and stuff. They keep it going way longer than it should be. And J.K. Rowling obviously didn't keep it going longer than it should be. She did end it at book 7, as per her word. But it's obvious that she didn't put any thought into writing out what's going to happen. She didn't develop these ideas, and a lot of times she was just throwing out plot points that were completely new. And it's always great when you're watching something, reading something, playing a game, and something comes back from a previous story, and it's like, okay, that stuff didn't seem important then, big now. There was a little bit of that in the books, but overall for the plot, J.K. Rowling was just pulling stuff out of her butt constantly, like, alright, check this out. Especially the idea of a port key. Oh, look at this port key. This is literally going to be the most important plot point in the book. And she introduces it, but to be fair, she introduces it early in the book, but she just constantly was just introducing completely new things out of nowhere, constantly. And that's just so much of this is just, that's really so much of the problem. that she was constantly pulling things out of nowhere. It took 7 books for her to get to the concept of the Deathly Hallows, which is an interesting idea, but it took you 7 books to give me any real mythology. Oh yeah, by the way, Harry's invisibility cloak is some sort of super uber special invisibility cloak. Really? Because this idea that they're all like supposed to be temporary, I don't remember that ever being in anything except the 7th book, when it was supposed to be one of the Deathly Hallows. I mean, it's like, you want to say, well, that's a really brilliant plot twist, but in all honesty, it's really not. I mean, when Ron sees the invisibility cloak, it's not like he's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's like, wow, an invisibility cloak. Those things are rare. I mean, he didn't react like, oh my gosh. And especially if those things aren't supposed to be permanent, if they're supposed to fade out at some point, no one is just like, hey Harry, your invisibility cloak's been lasting a lot longer than the average one. That would have been a nice setup for the eventual reveal in the Deathly Hallows. We didn't get that because J.K. Rowling just threw all these story elements out left and right without any cohesion. People want to say that J.K. Rowling is a good writer, and I'm glad a lot of people are realizing that she is not. She's not a good writer. Honestly, she's really not even all that smart. She acts like she's a super brilliant person, but she really is just kind of a floozy. I mean, I remember when she revealed that Dumbledore was gay. Excuse me. After the 7th book came out. Excuse me. Keep doing that. I remember her having her book with her. I think it may have been the Deathly Hallows, and they were asking her about that. Like, you said Dumbledore was gay. She's like, well, I may not have said it, but that's what I always intended. You always intended this. I mean, and like she pointed to stuff that was like completely absurd. Like I remember there was a line. I think she pointed out to that Dumbledore was talking to Harry about. I think he was talking to Harry about Grindelwald, and he was talking about how the ideas of the whole wizard supremacy thing. It's like how these ideas, captured him, and he's like, and he basically got sucked into wizard Nazism. Oh, that proves he was gay for Grindelwald. What? Like, and I remember specifically reading that when I was younger. I'm like, no, it specifically says that he liked the ideas that he had, that he was sucked up, just like how Hitler got everyone sucked up into, Nazism. It's like, okay, he got everyone really into this idea, but he's not. It's like it never said anything about him being gay for him. I mean, it's obviously something that Rowling threw out just because she could. It's kind of like she threw it out afterwards. She's like, "Hey guys, did I mention how progressive I am?" That's literally all it is, and you don't do that. You don't change these characters to be progressive. You don't change your characters to fit some sort of political agenda. When you do that, you're not writing something. You're writing an agenda. When you're focusing on an agenda over your plot, that's a really, really bad sign. That's it. She wasn't focusing on writing. She was writing for money. That's really all it became. I'm not going to say she has the Hideo Kojima bitterness, because I don't quite think she did. But it's obvious to tell that she didn't really have any love for the series, that she was so callously killing people off, especially characters like Sirius, who are super important, and Remus, who is a very, very popular character. It's like, yeah, we're going to introduce basically that he had a relationship with Tonks. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, now they're both dead. But don't worry. I think that did they have a son or something? I don't remember. But it's like all these people are killed off. It's like it just, by the end of it, I remember struggling for years with the idea of, do I like the 7th book or no? Because the 7th book explained so much, but then it killed off all my favorite characters, and I eventually came to the decision, no, it's not good. Even its explanations, which, while it does explain a lot, are really lackluster and really poorly thought out. And this is what we're going to hail as great writing. I'm glad people are coming to their senses. After the 3rd book, J.K. Rowling really just stopped being good at all. I don't know if it's because she stopped trying or she simply ran out of ideas and just kept acting like she had ideas. But the books, I mean, there were always some good things in it, especially Luna came in later, but still, it's really not enough to make up for all the crap she did, especially in the 7th book. And that's it. J.K. Rowling just screwed up Harry Potter. I can't wait until people can ultimately completely disown the books as being good, so we don't have to deal with all those obsessive Potter fanboys screaming, Harry Potter is literally the greatest thing ever. Well, I think that's it for today. I think I'm about done with this topic. I'm definitely done with J.K. Rowling. I'm not doing topics on her, I'm just done with the person. So, if you want to check out last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to check out next week's topic video, when I get that up, I will put that here. If you want to submit a topic, make sure if you're on make sure that it's something that's fictional and that it's something that is, specific. Gives me a specific topic to talk about, not just what do you like X or what do you think of Y. Make sure that if you're, wow, I'm out of it right now. If you're on Tumblr, you send me an ask on my blog, and then do topic, and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Or if you're on YouTube, you can simply comment below about what topic you want me to talk about. If you're not sure if I know about something or if I'm familiar with a certain series, you can just ask me, and I will tell you whether I am familiar or not. So you can decide if you want to send me a topic on it or something. So, yeah, I think I'm about done for today. Thank you for watching.